Hey, Link.
October 21st, or is it September 21st?
September 21st is Poolesville
September
Day.
21st, okay.
Yeah, Poolesville Day, yeah. Why, you're going to be gone?
I was gonna do a race that day. A dirt bike race.
Oh.
But no, okay.
They got a 5K here if you want to race it.
No.
They're sponsoring it over there. He wants to be in the 5K. No.
Too many commitments.
Look, you see me, right?
Yeah.
That flyover was really good.
It was. I liked it. I got some stuff. I'm working on the dimensions and everything, so I'll get you something. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, but
Yeah.
I am working.
He's seniority. I'll
Jim's working on
to the farthest.
St. Mary's
right?
College up in, what's it, near Emmitsburg, that college?
Okay.
They've got a bubble, and they actually take it down every year.
Oh, those are from the
So we're going to hopefully get some cost figures from them.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I saw his emails about it. I saw the email about tying it into the bathroom. I don't know how it's going to work. I guess I'm going to give the dimensions of everything, right?
Yeah,
And I was in my head thinking we'd bubble the whole thing.
yeah. I don't think so. I think the outside stuff for the kids and all that, I don't really think that's, they have a splash pool there.
Yeah, that's
so-
what I say. The splash.
Yeah, probably not that part, I wouldn't think, but,
But for sure, we'd want to bubble the big pool and the small pool
yeah.
because they've got that kiddie. They've got the
Yeah, they do have the kiddie pool,
the
too.
kiddie pool, and
Yeah.
I know when we go up there.
I think we just do estimates for both and see.
Yep. Okay.
As long as we can take it down,
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
Link, it's past 6:30.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Fair Access Committee's monthly meeting. I think you probably know most of the committee members. I'm Lynn Cohen.
Sarah Paxima.
Nancy Kidd?
Derek Longbreak.
Ed Reed.
Adam Soroka.
The only member missing tonight, I think, is, no, Jim's not a member. She's president of the commission, so.
Chuck.
Chuck Copeland is missing, but I don't know if he's coming or not, but we got most of the members, so thank you for coming, everyone. We have one business item to take care of, and then we'll have the listening session and hear from all of you. The minutes for the April meeting need to be approved first, so has anybody looked at them, and if somebody has, could you make a motion?
Sure, I looked at them. I motion that we approve the April minutes.
Okay,
A second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Before we get started, I just want to make one comment. We got two new members. Derek is one. I'm glad to see Derek here tonight. And now that he and Chuck are on board, they've already had one big success because today we had a straw vote with the county council, and they approved both the community center and the funding for WUMCO that we've been looking for healthcare. So you guys did a great job, and you can quit already if you want to. It's not a final vote, but it should be a fait accompli. So thank you. So the listening session. As you know, what we're trying to do is get input from the community about future projects or initiatives that you think we ought to be focusing on the Fair Access Committee. I think you know a lot of the things we've already focused on. The school obviously was one. The community center we just mentioned was another. We're still working on trying to get a bubble for the pool, so we have that for year-round use. The WUMCO funding was something we've really been pushing for. So those are kind of the main things we've been focusing on. But our charter, we are a committee of the town of Poolesville, is to focus on trying to ensure the county and state treat our area equitably when it comes to facilities, programs, and services. So we can certainly support groups that are doing other things that help with that kind of thing. We don't always have to be the lead, but that's our charter. So if we may or may not be able to come on board on something you're proposing, but we certainly want to hear whatever ideas you have, no matter whether you think I think it fits or not. It doesn't matter. I want to hear it. We want to hear it. So basically, at town meetings, we have 3 minutes. You can certainly take longer than that. We're not trying to stick in, to a 3 or 4 minute limit. Just give us your thoughts. It can be informal. If you have anything you want to hand out written, that's fine, or send it afterwards, that's fine too. I don't know if any committee members have any thoughts or any ideas you want to put on the table before we get going, but that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. So anything else?
I think just the context that we are reaching so many of these fantastic goals that have been laid out for the last 5-6 years. And what we'd really like is to hear from folks in the community about what do you see as the highest priorities, and where should we be focusing our advocacy efforts with the framework in mind that the Fair Access Committee was set up to advocate for sort of equal access to services in the county for those not only in Poolesville, but in the western Upper Montgomery County area, in the Ag Reserve, essentially.
The only other thing I'd mention, and I don't know if Niles, this is happening or not, but we may have somebody joining by Zoom. Is anybody in the waiting room?
No, nobody is on, and I'm going to step aside for a moment, so I made Laura a co-host in case somebody pops in.
Okay.
Well, I have to step aside for a second. So
Okay.
just,
But if this,
I'm
you
gonna
do
send-
see, just let me know and we'll let them in, obviously, at some point.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's, Charlotte, you were here first. Do you want to start? Well, the main reason we have people come up here is because a microphone can be, people on YouTube can hear it, so if you can do that, that would be great. If we could, I don't know if you could move the microphone or not. If we could, that's fine, too.
All right, it's just I feel, I don't want to turn my back on you. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Father would reach up out of the grave and smash me. Not easy getting up in there.
Thank you. Well, and I wrote these remarks because I'm windy, so I thought I'd better keep it short. My name is Charlotte Boucher, and my organization is the Up County Prevention Network. The first thing we want to say is thank you. The Fair Access Committee has done an amazing job. It shows in the construction taking place at our high school, in the healthcare opportunities WUMCO provides, and in the plans for our community center moving forward to final approval. What a remarkable record of success. And now UPN would like to highlight ways in which these beautiful new facilities can be used to enhance the lives of our young people. UPN has always focused on school-based services, basically because schools are where the kids are. Transportation is provided on school buses. The staff at all 4 of our local schools is excellent. Many, if not most, of our kids get most of their needs attended to through school-based programming. But in these post-COVID times, we are seeing across the U.S. and here in the Up County too, new and increased need for mental health services for our children and their families. So UPN has worked to address this need, and we would suggest that mental health be a focus of the Fair Access Committee's efforts as well. All the county mental health facilities and most of the practitioners are located in places like Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Silver Spring, out of reach of our young people whose families work and commute long hours, and who themselves may not drive or have access to a car. Dedicating a space and staffing at our community center for mental health services is a high priority. School-based counseling services are sorely stretched, tell me, Ed, and never were designed to meet the needs of kids in crisis and their families. We would like to see access to services for those kids here in our community, but also less formal opportunities for developing healthy outlooks. So we'd like to expand on the creative outlets already offered by Riverworks and Essence Studio to include mentoring and internship programs that don't shut down when the school year is over. Additionally, it's not just families in crisis that can benefit from mental health services. Bringing expensive but time-tested programs such as the Strengthening Families program, now only available down county, to our community would be helpful to us as well. Of course, the big shadow on our young people's mental health is isolation. Because we live so far from population hubs and we have such minimal public transportation available, most of us don't even know what we're missing in terms of programming and services offered elsewhere in the county. That's why our next suggestion is important for everyone, including but not limited to our youth. We need case managers who know our community as well as the greater county. Like a hotel concierge who recommends a good restaurant in your price range, case managers help us discover what's out there and help us through the sometimes complicated steps to access it. So, thanks. Mental health services and case management are UPN's wish list.
That was great. Thank you. I very much appreciate it. Anybody have questions or thoughts?
More of maybe just a really brief discussion. My understanding is that MCPS has mental health services at all the high school, but did not build one here specifically for Poolesville.
I wouldn't say
Is that
necessarily
correct?
mental health services facilities at every high school. Every high school has counseling departments, but the key thing to understand with counseling departments, counselors don't provide therapy. It's not a treatment piece, all right? So it's different. School counselors do more triage,
Right.
right? But so when you think about there's some high schools that have wellness centers.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but not all schools have been given wellness centers. You know, it'd be great to have a wellness
Poolesville High School
center.
does not have a wellness center. That's
Poolesville
correct.
does not have a wellness center.
That's true.
Okay, but to
Yeah.
speak to that, Sarah,
Yeah.
I have to commend Mark Crothers because the group that UPN sponsors, it's called Project Uplift at the high school, has worked with him to set aside a room in the counseling suite in the new building as a safe room for kids. The kids are calling it the butterfly room, where they are not at risk. They are, if they are overwhelmed or unable to manage the day, they have access to support, but also just safety. And he was so receptive and extremely supportive when our kids came forward with that. So I think they deserve some commendation for that, too. It's not enough, right?
Yes, yes.
But previously, kids who were having the kind of day that they could not manage were weeping in the hallway because there was no place to put them, and their parents perhaps could not come pick them up. And so there was a chair where a teary kid would be crying out in the hallway for people to walk by and stare at.
Yeah.
It's a step forward.
It is.
Yeah, when the superintendent came out, I think you were there that day, there were several kids at that, and there were, 35 kids there, I think? But she just asked them to talk, and several of them talked about how frightened they felt during the day sometimes, and, they needed people to listen to them, and it was pretty gut-wrenching to hear, so I'm glad that he's actually doing some of this kind of thing.
And it's a high-stress high school as well. There's a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of
Academic
achievement,
pressure.
and that also leads to a lot of stress. So our kids, I think, are not uniquely vulnerable, but in some ways especially vulnerable to the anxiety and stress that occurred. I actually didn't remember until kids told me when we were talking to them that right after COVID opened schools, there were 4 school shootings on the news in a 2-week period. And many kids were safe and sound in their little homes with their computers in front of them, and then heading off to a school where they hadn't been the previous year, they didn't know the layout of the school, and they were in a world where kids got shot going to school. It's not a surprise to us that mental health is a concern for our kids.
Yeah.
Told you I'm windy. I should say thank you and
But,
goodbye.
Charlotte, I would just say thank you for your consistency and your advocacy. I would say thank you also just because I know you've been at this for a long time.
Oh, long time.
And then just looking at, and I remember though when you did the pivot from the event you all used to do after school to doing it here, and that is event to promote awareness on drug prevention and promoting mental health as well. So I definitely think also if you were able, did you already send us what you read, your notes there?
I haven't, but I'd be happy to.
If you send that to us, that would be helpful for us to have too as a committee.
One aspect of that too, Charlotte, since you know a lot more about this than I do certainly, is there are really 2 things we focus a lot on is policy change. Is there something we can do in Montgomery County's policies that we can make a difference? And then budget. Are there
It all
things they
boils
could be
down to-
putting money into that we could help?
Yeah.
So if there's anything in those 2 areas, that would really be helpful.
Well, I don't think pushing for more counselors is the answer in terms of policy. The ratio in MCPS is already nationally pretty good.
Yeah.
And frankly, the counselors aren't there to do therapy.
Right.
They're writing your college recommendations at Poolesville High School because there are so many kids who are, competing for slots in name universities. But providing as a budget item, staffing for mental health, certainly for the community center, there's no reason that couldn't be a county council or a school system office. The people who do, and the people who do case management, school system has some people, handful.
Yeah.
But having our own makes a big difference.
Now, I will share this, what works well. Matter of fact, I get the joy of, at my school, I lead what's called our our student well-being team. And one of the people on our student well-being team is our social worker. So having a social worker for us at our middle school has been a true blessing. And although we share her with another middle school, we get her 2 days a week. And just, you dive in, they do some of the on-site counseling. And so I think if any push, and we have one here, I met her here at Poolesville High School, we have a social worker. And so I think looking at how to expand that program, because the social worker's responsibilities and services are different than the school counselor's responsibility. But when you have, because even in the mental health world, there's such a huge backlog of people waiting to try to get services, whether it's teleservices or in person. I mean, I would say it's a problem all over the country. And so when we look at a lot of the information that continues to come out about the challenges that young people are facing, and so I think in terms of advocacy, one of the things I had mentioned to a lot of the county council members, we were talking about youth and the challenges that you have with youth, and my recommendation to them was to invest more money on the prevention side, because a lot of people get excited and get emotional once something happens, and everyone wants to say, oh, we got to do an intervention or we have to have a postvention. But the key, I believe, after doing this work for the last 27 years, really 30 years, is looking at organizations like a UPN or some of the other organizations that do the preventive work, and let's look at how do we put together a strong argument to create grants that would be funded to do the preventive work. Because you could save a lot more kids on the prevention side than you do on the intervention. You're dealing with the mess that has occurred. On the prevention, you prevent the mess from having to be cleaned up.
Well, that's why I mentioned the Strengthening Families program. Are you familiar with that, Ed?
I'm not.
It's been around almost 40 years. It's a research-based and extremely well-documented success story, not just for problem families, although there are states, it's in every state, that court mandate families attend it. You know, it can be serving that population, but it also is for families who just are interested in better communication. And it's a wonderful program, and UPN would love to sponsor it here. It costs an arm and a leg. You have to buy the materials. And then you have to feed everybody because they come to dinner, you know, and they have a family meal together. And then, you know, you have to provide all of the additional materials. So it's an extremely expensive, wonderful program.
All right.
And, you know, there are places in the down county that do it. And there are services like Linkages to Learning in other parts of the county that provide similar, if not the same, programming. And, you know, it's not just for the one family that's gone completely off the rails. It's for a community. That's especially powerful for us because this is one of the places that really is a community. And, you know, capitalizing on that is, I think, one of our great strengths.
Is that run by a nonprofit, Charlotte, or is it a county program?
Foundation.
Foundation, okay.
It sounds like potential programming for a community center, and I love the idea of social worker and mental health services at a community center, because so often a child's mental health is very connected to the entire family. So being able to find supports, services, education, peer support at a community center where the whole family can have access to it.
And it doesn't close in the summer.
Right. Anyways, really appreciate all of your remarks. I think you've
Yeah.
given us a lot
Thank
to
you
think
very
about.
much.
And as you go back, the last thing I would just add on is because in my notes I looked at how you talked about expanding services like by Riverworks and other groups. One of the things that would be helpful for us to keep an eye on is look at these grants where you have multiple providers, so you go and apply. So where you might have a WAMCO with a UPN, with a Riverworks, with a Story Tapestry, and look at the different pieces that each group could play, because you have a stronger chance of getting some of these grants when you go through. And I believe you and Niles has set up one of the grant writing workshops here.
Yeah, we'll keep doing that every year.
So,
Well, and UPN has been working with WUMCO for the Wellness Wednesday program. So the one that's coming up in May has a panel of really notable experts, right? Coming in to talk about social media and the impact on your kids and your family and how to manage that. The previous one that we partnered with WUMCO on was on teen mental health, and that's where the social workers from our cluster were very important because they know our kids now. When they came in, they didn't, but now they've been here a while and they do. And that partnership has been, I think, extremely valuable to people who were not in crisis but could stand the boost. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Maureen, would you like to step forward next? If not, that's fine, we'll move to somebody else.
He's just going to tap people.
I haven't really prepared anything to say.
That's fine.
I first wanted to say, though, how much I admired what the Fair Access Committee is doing. I carefully, read all you've done, and it just, starting with the school and the mental health programs, everything you mentioned. Now, and I'm speaking here now for Historic Medley District, and we're in a totally different category. We're not building schools, we're not doing this, and I think, as I said the other night at our dinner, what I see, and I think it has an important place too, is Historic Medley District, our mission is to keep history alive, and I think for the town of Poolesville, it's important because this is part of your historic character, the historic part of what Poolesville is. And otherwise, you're just a small little town off 270. But we're trying to focus on the historical part of it. And as far as, services, we try to have more programs now at the John Poole House and at the Old Town Hall. But I think what I call my little gem is the Seneca Schoolhouse over there. Every year, this year we had 3,200 kids come, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, West Virginia, and they come, it's a field trip, and they come for 4 hours, and a lot of them dress up in clothes that, say if you were a student in 1860 and your father was a canal worker, and they have a great time, and I think that's a service too. So I look at what HMD is doing. It's a different type of service. It's not schools, mental health, but I think it all has an important part to play in the big picture of how everyone in town here and you with the county tries to promote this. And I think I told you I'm working this year now with Civil War Trails down in Williamsburg, and we put this new sign up, but now we're part of their nationwide program and what it is, they try to, besides just having these signs, which talks about a Civil War was here or there, whatever, it's promoting tourism and to help the businesses and help the towns. So I think that's important. So I'm just speaking for what I think, because Sarah said tonight, why don't you come? I'm thinking, well, I don't really do any of the big stuff that you guys do, but I still think it's important what Historic Medley District does, and I'm proud, and our board here, Tom is on the board, and we keep every year trying to improve our services to the people to keep history alive. And in my mind, that's very important.
I was going to say, Maureen, I think you don't give yourself enough credit. I think HMD has done a great job of keeping history alive, and I think in the future, I think of some histories that have not been kept alive as much, and I think the role that you can play in partnering with the Sugarland
Yes.
Ethnohistory
Right,
Project,
Negro thing, yeah.
looking at the historic Black communities around Poolesville,
Right.
helping to support the telling of those stories and the preservation of the buildings in
Right.
those areas.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of incredible work to be done in keeping our history alive.
Well, the other night at the dinner, I go around and I invited some of my friends, but afterwards I said, well, I'm really not going to have much chance to talk to you. My job here tonight is to mingle, to, go around. And there are a number of people that I met there, and there was this one woman and her daughter, and I didn't know her. And I said, hello, I'm Maureen O'Connell, and I didn't say, who are you? But she said, yes. I said, did you come to some of our ghost tours or any events? No, I just heard about, I just moved to Poolesville, and I heard about your organization, and I want to be part of it. So she joined. She joined 2 weeks ago, and she came to our dinner. And then there was another man. He's a new master of our Potomac hunt, and I saw him at a hunt event a while ago, and he's a big property owner up here, and the hunt is trying to reinvigorate itself. There's been a lot of problems because a lot of the hunts now everywhere, they're losing territory. Because a lot of the people who, when I joined the hunt, God, almost 30, 40 years ago, most of the landowners were the ones we hunted with, and all the property owners, they all lived up here, and they were all friends, everybody. But now, the new property owners coming in, they don't want you on your property. And, I don't know if I could go back to fox hunting anymore. I mean, when I was doing it for years, I wasn't out to kill a fox. I liked being on a good horse, going fast, etc. But the whole picture of fox hunting has changed. But when I was talking to him, Tim Hansen, because he just bought about 400, 500 acres over there in White Store Road, used to be the Arab property. So he bought that, and he's the new master at the Potomac Hunt. And I was talking, he emailed me after dinner, he said, Maureen, I live in Potomac, but I never go to Poolesville, and I never heard about Historic Mounties District, and this is fantastic. And he gave us a very, very large donation, and he said, I want to do more to encourage tourism and interest up in this upper county area. I said, because, you want to meet the landowners up here, well, you got to start someplace, and, come to Poolesville, and so he was very enthused about that. So I think that the 150 people here the other night, a lot of them said, I asked them where they live. I know I lived in Bethesda, I live here. And where's Poolesville? So I think that was good to get our name back it's already on the map. You know what I mean? So that's what I see as the role of Historic Medley District. Do their little part to keep history alive and to keep the focus on Poolesville.
Well, with Charlotte here, one of the things that I was thinking about as you were speaking and thinking about HMD's role is there's a Board of Education member named Lynn Harris, and the election that just happened, she sent me a text.
Right.
She was at one of the polling places. She has several Poolesville High School students on her what they call FLAC team. That's the group, kids that go out and actually hand out the pamphlets and so forth. And those students from Poolesville High School, all they could talk about was Poolesville Day. So, these are not, 3 of these students were not from Poolesville. They're from out of this, and they attend Poolesville High School from other places.
Right.
So the community aspect of our high school, I think, is stronger than probably most areas.
It is.
And Joey Gearing, who did that documentary, is a perfect example of that. When I talked to him about why he did it, he said that he just happened to be talking to his history professor one day, and he wanted to do a video.
Right.
And the professor said, did you know anything about Poolesville High School's history? He said, no. And he told me none of the students they talked to had a clue. So I don't know what there is there, but it seemed like there may be something where HMD and the history department at the high school maybe could do some more things with the students to actually become more involved about pools and learn more about what the town's history is. And that was an example, because Joey that documentary, you saw it, was just fantastic.
Right. Well, Joey had called me about, was it last year or something? I didn't know who he was. And he said, Miss O'Connell, I hear you're with Historic Medley District, and I want to put together a documentary about the segregation of the schools up here. And I felt like thinking, well, how are you going to do this? This is not that easy to do.
No.
And he said, I talked to people at the Poolesville High School, and they mentioned your name, and that I should call you. So I worked with him, and it was just fantastic what he has done. And a number of other students they call me, and they come do some archival work at the John Poole House. So we're trying to get more involved with the school also. So I think that's good. It's just everyone has to come together.
Yeah.
And I think this is what Fair Access is doing so well.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to do our little part. Everyone has their own little part they have to do. Okay.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small it is. And but no, I think that the town of Poolesville has, because I live in Barnesville. I moved up here in 1980. That was a long time ago. There wasn't much up here, as you can imagine. Nothing up here. We came from Alexandria, Virginia, and then Rockville. And so it is come a long way. And I think the town commissioners, all your committees you've done a fabulous job of I won't say improving is not the word, of focusing more and making Poolesville more of a name for itself. And so HMD is trying to do our little part to help you.
By the way, I am so glad the knight mentioned the sign at the, because Dale Tibbetts sent me a note and said, I guess I have to start working in this now. So that was really good.
Yes.
Very helpful.
Yes.
No, he was working on it before, but when I was in Congress, I used to have a staff director who would say, when the senator sent you, asked you to do something, what do you do? And I said, I do a memo. And he said, really? He said, let me show you something. He pulled his drawer open.
Yeah.
All these memos from all the staff were sitting in there. He said, don't do that. Actually do something, like go meet with them and talk to them. So
Yeah.
that was very helpful. And I know Dale's going to work on it. And that's a really important piece, too. Getting that sign up could be a really nice event for the town.
Which one?
The sound at the Rosenball School. That's what he was talking about.
Step.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
It's the first step.
In the newspaper about a month ago, I think it was New York Times, there was a big article about the schools and Rosenwald. And they're trying now to talk to more small areas, like what our school would be, and trying to get them more involved together, to work together, to have more recognition of these schools.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the potential, I mean, it's another little Seneca schoolhouse, as in it's another preserved small schoolhouse.
sure.
That
Yeah.
could potentially.
Yes, and it's one of the,
Be its own
it's actually one of the
experience.
few in the United States, because I guess it was last year, the superintendent of schools contacted me, and she said, Maureen, could I come out to the Seneca Schoolhouse? Because I have some people who have these schoolhouses, and they're run down, they don't know where to start. And actually, Seneca Schoolhouse is one of the best operating, because it's operating school.
Yeah.
And this was interesting. I thought this was very good. The day that she came, we had a group coming from Rockville, and it was a school for autistic children. Okay, we never had that before. And the teacher said, Maureen, I don't know how they are going to relate here. A lot of them are nervous coming into here, different place, getting on and going to your porta-johns and all that stuff. So the superintendent of schools and the other person from the school, we sat in the back there. And at first, the children were very nervous. They wouldn't, because the girls sit on one side, the boys on one side. They didn't want to raise their hands. They didn't want to do this and that. And gradually, they became so involved because they didn't feel intimidated, you know? That no one was on their iPhones, no one needed this. They knew that they could learn in this little one-room schoolhouse. And she was just so pleased to see that, what one little organization and one little schoolhouse can do. And we've been doing this now, I think, for, I forget how many years now. And Knight's father was very involved since they lived across the street from the Seneca Schoolhouse. So they've been very helpful with that. And of course, Julie Shapiro, who lives here in Poolesville, she's been our teacher for a while. And I remember I was at the Potomac Hunt races, which actually are this Sunday. It was a year or so ago, and Julie and Larry stopped by to have a drink or food with us. And some little girl comes by, you know, about 7 or 8 years old. Mrs. Darby, how are you? Because Darby, he was the person who founded the school.
Right. And
Jennifer is his daughter, Mrs. Darby. And, I mean, did she think that Julie, you know, it was just 1860. So it's very important, I think, what we do at the schoolhouse. I call it my little gem. And that's another way of remembering history.
Right.
1860, you know.
In that regard, Maureen, I've got grandkids at Monocacy Elementary. They don't actually go to the Seneca Schoolhouse, do they?
Where are they now located?
Monocacy Elementary, they don't go there.
Well, they have sometimes in the past, and every year before they started the school, we send notices out to all the schools who have come in the past. And for a while there, Poolesville schools didn't come either.
Oh, really?
We had to do a very good selling. I don't know why they wouldn't come. You know, most of the schools where our kids come from, well, either they're homeschoolers, but you know where our biggest kids come from? The French school in D.C., the French school. They send up probably last week or so, I think they had they were there every single day. The French school is there, and then the German school loved coming. So
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wondered.
So,
Yeah,
I'll talk to the principal about it, maybe.
we gotta keep moving. 'cause we
Yep.
got a lot
okay,
of-
okay, fine.
Thanks.
Didn't mean
Yeah,
to-
but one thing I would jump in and say too, though, it's two things. I'm looking over at Poolesville High School's clubs, and has anyone from the Poolesville's History Club been in touch with you?
I talked to the woman a while ago about this, because when we were having the photo contest, I called, I said, now, do you have a history club or something, or whatever, that we could, I could talk to your children and encourage them to come to the contest? And she said, no, they don't have that anymore.
But the photo club or a history club?
Yeah,
Photography.
They actually have a history club.
Have a history club.
yeah.
Oh, I know, because last year, one of the students contacted me, and I said that, I mean, that's really surprised me. They go around, it's like, none of that, it's academic programs.
Yeah, they have History Day.
But there
History
it is.
Bowl.
It's just academic, history.
The History Bowl.
History. And she said, I was thinking, this is a student.
We got it.
Laura, can you mute Niles for him, since you're one of the hosts?
You can't see it. Oh, you can see it up there.
No, it's
No,
not.
Niles, he's done. He's taken care of.
All right.
So here, I'll give a recommendation.
Yeah.
Here, my recommendation, and I'm happy to help you with it, is connecting with Tim Short. He's the
He
sponsor.
was in the video.
He's the sponsor for the History Club. And then you have Mr. Turner. He's the sponsor for the History Bowl. And it was Turner who was very helpful with the young man who
Video.
did the video.
Yeah, he did great.
But looking at how to help them maybe get involved, and that's a gateway to even teaching some of the local kids about some of the history of Poolesville and having them come over and visit. The second thing I was going to say, and we could follow up later offline, maybe even looking at the things that they're doing at the Boyd's Negro School. I don't know how, I've been over there. I don't know how many other people have been over there, off of White Grounds Ferry.
I talk with him often.
Yeah.
What surprised me about the History Bowl, when this young student called me, and she said, Ms. O'Connell, I'm trying to start a fundraising group, and someone mentioned to call you, and I said, because when they go around to different schools, I said, well, does the school pay for that? No, they get nothing, she said, nothing. And she said, well, I didn't know if I could give them some money. I think they gave her $500,000. But I said, if you're going to go out to other people, do you have a form? I need something that's going to say, you, the History Bowl, is asking the Historic Money District to be a sponsor to help us. But I need a piece of paper. And I said, you can't have your name on it. It has to be Mr. Turner's name. So she finally did that. And I said, now that you have that, and we're the first ones to help you raise money, hopefully you can go to other organizations and ask them also to do the same. And I said, we're very willing to help you, any other help you need.
All right.
So,
Sounds good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks. Ann, did you have something?
Maureen, appreciate it.
Hello, everyone behind me and in front of me. My name's Ann Connor. I'm a resident of Poolesville. I'm not representing any group or institution other than my own thoughts, which intersect a bit with both of our previous speakers' ideas and come from the lens of having raised 2 children here and frequently used the Montgomery County Recreation Department services, and now from the lens of being a senior in Poolesville. I do participate with Poolesville seniors, but I am not speaking on their behalf, just on my own behalf. First, to Sarah's point, I feel Fair Access has really prioritized what has been of most significance to our community. So thank you for that, and congratulations on the straw poll results today. Secondly, thank you for a listening session. I hope we do more of these. It's the kind of idea that takes a while for the ball to get rolling. So I would hope if we do more that a year from now, there'd be 10 or 15 or 20 or more people in the room, but it takes a while to get things going. So I don't know if anybody's aware, but last year, Poolesville Seniors was going to attend an event for 55 and older sponsored by Montgomery County down at Smoky Glen Farm. And it was a big countywide barbecue with music and a really nice long day. And people come from all over the county for this, and it's for seniors in the county. And I'm told, and some of the Poolesville Seniors staff could be more specific, that it was the first time we had requested that a bus come up here to pick up our pretty large group that wanted to go down. Well, long and short, it rained. The bus didn't come, and there was a lot of communication back and forth, and people got tired of standing in the rain. So some people left and drove on down. A few people waited, and much, much, much later, a bus came, but a lot of people left, and the people who came on the bus got there really late, like the whole day was about halfway over before they showed up. So the lesson there was that the bus system, and this is through Montgomery County, didn't know where Poolesville was, didn't have us signed up for a bus, and when we got there, I went in my car, there were people from over the entire county, far east county, way down county, and most of them came in buses that were supplied by the county for this. So that kind of highlights how we're off the grid for some basic services. Now, to be fair, if we perhaps had some kind of straw poll on people in town who might utilize more of Montgomery County recreation facilities that are currently available down county, could we have an activity bus up here? Are there a lot of people who would go and take the seniors or any of the swim classes right down the road at Germantown if there were an activity bus that came? I don't know the answer to this, but I feel it's worth exploring because this is already a structure the county has. We have a very large recreation department with lots of activities. If you look at it, which I have, they have field trips to a lot of other places, Baltimore, the flower show in Philadelphia, real nice field trips. Those are for seniors. But to get to them, you have to go very far down county where a bus then takes you to these events. So case in point, maybe there'd be 20 people up here who would ride a bus to get down to participate with other county seniors in going to some of these field trips that are outside of our area. So that is part of what I think of as a two-way street. We want to ask for more access to the transportation so seniors up here, or anybody, depending on what the need is, can get to these activities. Now, the two-way street is, when I look in that big county recreational booklet, which I did for years, signing my kids up for summer camp, you got to get them signed up by Martin Luther King Day or you're not going to get your kids in for summer camp. Everybody knows that who raised kids here. I also look at it now for all the activities and for seniors, and I don't see any up here. So we need to be a presence in that Montgomery County Recreation Guide, year-round. So in my dreams, I think, well, why couldn't one of those field trips that they're taking people from all over the county on be to a working farm in the up county? Why couldn't one of those field trips be to an evening at Caleva? Why couldn't one of the field trips be to an evening of arts and entertainment at Riverworks once that's up and running? And also, the classes that they have, for example, music for children, dance and exercise, why cannot any of our studios in town, for example, Essence, why could that not be offered through the county? If you look, swimming is about the only thing that's totally a county-sponsored activity. Most of the others are private companies that the county is utilizing in order to offer dance, exercise, etc. So why not Essence? Why not Unique Music out at Riverworks? Why not have us look at what are the type of businesses we have in town that we can also offer through the county rec services? To be fair, I have no clue on what the financial arrangement is for that. If companies have to bid to be the one that gets the contract with the county to offer these services, my feeling is let's use the transportation system we have to get our people to be able to access things that exist elsewhere in the county, but let's also make our presence available. So for example, to some of the points that a previous speaker mentioned, why not have a field trip day to historic Medley District sites up here in the Up County? We offer a lot, but maybe we need to be a lot more aggressive within our county and what we already have to make ourselves known.
Yeah.
Can I just make one comment on that?
Sure.
Because I mentioned that when schools come up here, they get a school bus.
Right.
The homeschoolers, their parents can drive themselves, and the private schools, they have the access, they can do it. But this year I noticed even that if you need, say if you go to Monocacy, some other school in the county, the parents have to pay for it. The county is not paying for the bus. And this year, it was a very, very poor school in southeast DC, which, very bad area, and they definitely wanted to come up here. And they said that we can't afford to pay for it. We talked to the school system, and they said they won't pay for it, so we could do it. Because it was important. It was almost more important for this school down there who needed it so much. Let's say even, Poolesville Elementary School, this school in southeast Washington, very deprived children. So it's not just your organizations. The county is not very good at providing bus trips.
And to your point about the lack of county recreation programs, back when we started Fair Access in 2018, we had a meeting the county executive set up with all the department heads, and I don't know if you've ever met Robin Riley, but she's head of the rec department. Really, very good woman. But she showed me a 2015 to 2030 master plan for the rec department, and in it, there's a footnote, which we took note of right away, that said, limited or no programs are offered in Poolesville because there are no facilities available. So one of the reasons we push for the community center is that that excuse gets removed.
Right.
And they also know, and the more we've talked to them about the community center, the more that they've agreed that it's not just programming from the county. They also know that there's so many local groups that can do programming that they're really looking forward to working with them, like the seniors group. So I think the opportunity is there once it gets open, but that's still several years
Well,
off.
and I think there's opportunity until it gets built, because that's
Oh,
still
absolutely.
some time
Yeah,
off
there is.
to begin building a foundation of county-sponsored programming out here.
Yeah.
And I think because we've been working more with the rec department in this community center design process.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's an opening for us to continue those conversations. And I think also, Link, you had conversations with people at the tourism department. And again, they had very little information on the ag reserve in general. And so that's another area that we're also
Right.
pursuing.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to wait.
Right.
We have things to offer, and as much as we say we want fair access from the county for what we have or to get us to where people need to go, we also have businesses that, we would like. And that recreational guide, I understand that they work way ahead, but that's the template for a lot of people in the county to look for what they're going to do, for what they're going to do for their children, for what seniors are going to do. It's one source for lots of things to come together. We can have the artisans tour, and we can have lots of individual events, Ride for the Reserve, lots of things, but sometimes you need that one place that people are going to go to online, or the book where they can open it and say, we can do this. And I really, and this is my own, dream, would be to have some tours of working farms. Because we also need the ag reserve has to remain viable, and people have to see that the ag reserve is viable. It's not just a tourism town, that we're not like a little town from, that we're trying to make it only history what we used to be. We can do a historic medley tour. We can do a tour of all the African-American schools, the Boyd's Negro School, the Rosenwald School. We can tell history, Button Farm, et cetera. But we also need to show that now, today, we can make this agricultural reserve something that people want to come to and make that a draw in itself. And I feel that we need to do that in order to really stress that we are in an agriculture reserve. So some of this overlaps with what our previous speakers mentioned in terms of activities for teens. And obviously, we would need to have some idea of numbers. I'm aware that the county's bus system would probably have a required minimum that you could guarantee before they're going to even consider an activity bus coming up here, or a metro access bus for people who may need that service. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for your feedback.
And as you're talking, I'm sitting here looking up the information you're talking about, and
Right.
I'm looking at the 55 and Better guide from Montgomery County.
Right.
I just paged through the most current one, the summer 2024, to look at some of those activities and the different things. And I was reading up while you were talking, reading up on they have like 4 or 5 senior centers that provide transportation.
Correct.
It's at 2 throughout the Mid-Atlantic. So it was
Right.
really I love the idea that Ann is mentioning, because I think if we could talk to some of the context that we have now and really explore a mutual benefiting relationship in terms of the events that we have in Poolesville,
Right.
from our Poolesville Day, or even our Spring Fest, to even going out toward the mountain over here, Sugarloaf, where they could do walking, because I was reading through the information, and they have groups that will go do walks and to go do hiking and things like that. So I definitely think it's a great idea. I think that's something we definitely should look into, to sit down and explore. Hey, while we're waiting for that community center to be built, how do we also make sure that we are making sure that we're getting fair access? Our seniors who aren't driving get fair access to these different events.
Right. I mean, if the county can drive a lot of people to Philadelphia for the flower show,
Yeah.
why can we not also come out here? It's less expensive to come and do some of the things here. By the same token, a lot of our seniors may not even bother to look at where are these programs being offered, because I can't get
there.
to East County to get the bus that's going to take people to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So
great
two-way
ideas.
street. Thanks.
Excellent.
Yep,
Thank you so
thanks.
much, Ann.
Sarah, did you have something you wanted to raise, or? Feel free.
No pressure.
No pressure. I just wanted to get you up here because I know that Tom will not go on too long, but
I mostly
kidding,
came
Don.
to listen. My name is Sarah Defnet. I came on behalf of Poolesville Presbyterian Church. We're involved with a lot of different missions. We support the seniors by giving them a lot of space. So yeah, we encourage anything we can do to continue to support the senior organization, and I think the community center eventually will help. But for right now, we're kind of giving them space, and it's amazing how they've grown. I don't think there's anyone here from the seniors, not really speaking on their behalf either, but, well, yeah, we're all,
Officially.
the organization, but they've done a tremendous job growing the organization and the activities, and I'm in and out of the building all the time for some of the missions that we support, like Little Free Pantry and the Community Garden. And so I see people in our buildings every day, and the group's growing, and we have a lot of participation. And so I feel like Poolesville is becoming a place where people can retire to. You don't have to leave and go somewhere else, and I think we are seeing. And so having that vibrant senior hub for the town is a really important thing. And it is being utilized, and it's growing. So that's good to see. And I think Ann's got some great points and good ideas. The only other thing that I can think of to share in terms of access. We're heavily involved in trying to reduce food insecurity in the town, and we do have a share of it. And when we started Little Free Pantry, I don't think that people believed that there was as much need. The pandemic kind of highlighted it, and we kind of started after that. We work with WUMCO. We work with a lot of the organizations. We have partnerships with area farmers, and we try to rescue food, bring food in, and try to get food out to people. And we're an emergency resource for WUMCO. And in doing that, we I guess we learn about some of, like, there's another program that we do called Backpack Bites, and that's for the elementary schools, and we send weekend food home. And it's one of those things I think we do in the Up County. So the summer's coming, and kids don't have access to a close summer meals program. They can go to, I think, Clarksburg. Through, a lot of our organizations always like talking to each other. WUMCO's kind of taken the lead, and Hosanna Church is going to oversee, but there will be a summer program, and it's going to kind of be created in conjunction right now with the Thursday night produce distribution at WUMCO, where we're working with farms and bringing in food and trying to get fresh food to people in the whole health avenue, but also then to be able to provide summer food for kids who, once again, it's an access thing, a transportation. It's not realistic to expect that these kids are going to be able to get to one of these schools in the other part of the county. But we are, once again, we're Poolesville, so we're solving it, and we're making sure that these kids have it, but just letting you become aware of some of the kind of things that are happening and how we're doing it. Should we be having to do that forever? Maybe not, but for right now we are managing it, and the community will come together and support that. But so that's basically it.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Tom, did you want to make some comments, or do you want Bob to go first?
Paper rock scissors.
Oh, gosh, I really don't have an agenda. I just wanted to listen to hear what you guys were doing and what other people were saying. Bob Sissel, longtime Poolesville resident, 44 years, and born and raised here in the county. So I am the director of Montgomery Agricultural Producers, which is 17 farmers that farm over 23,000 acres in the Ag Reserve. So I'm not here representing MAP. We're commonly referred to as MAP. But I work with all the council members and the county executive on lots of legislation and regulation and stuff. So a couple of notes from if somebody needs to consider farm tours or working with farmers, I'm available to communicate. I pretty much know all the farmers that are not just here, but over on the eastern side of the county also. Rec department. So Mike Riley retired from Parks recently, and his wife is now running the recreation department. She's great, by the way. She's really good. My granddaughter, one of my granddaughters who's in third grade, played rec department basketball this year. Mm-hmm. And all of their games were in Montgomery Hills, Silver Spring.
Yep. Had the same experience.
The two teams.
Ask us.
So the two teams that were Poolesville teams both had to go there, and twice they went there and played themselves. The two Poolesville teams went to Silver Spring.
We had that too.
Oh my goodness.
So that's broken.
Yeah.
So one thing you guys can do is, and I know we are a little short now with the high school renovation and stuff.
Right.
But there's enough basketball facilities that we should not have to go down county. And it's actually better for the town to bring teams from Silver Spring to here so they can come out to the reserve, see the pretty drive on the way up, see the farmers working in the fields and so on and so forth. So you guys could do something about that by talking to her. Many parents come to me because they knew what I did as the director of MAP, but I know all the politicians and stuff, but it would be, I think it's important to look at the rec department in Wheaton and say to them, hey, look, our kids should not have to go to Silver Spring to play a basketball game in third grade. It just doesn't fit. If they had to go down for one game or two games to play teams from down there, that makes sense. But really, teams should be coming here. And no teams came here. All the games were down there. So that's something that's...
What facility, out of curiosity, what facility did they go to when you all went to?
down there, Walter Reed, that's down off of...
Was it a county facility?
County
or a
facility,
school?
yeah, it's county facility. It's a full-blown rec facility, you know, and beautiful indoor basketball court with bleachers and all that stuff. You know, the elementary school here is tight to play a basketball game in.
Yeah.
Monocacy has a very nice basketball court that could have been used.
Now, I coached basketball here in Poolesville for a number of years when my kid was a little kid. So I coached these little boys all the way up till they got till ninth grade.
Sure.
So I know exactly what you're talking about, having to leave to go out.
Well, both my kids went to school here. My son's 46 years old. Lauren is 42 years old. I coached football at the high school in the 80s and 90s, and we used to go to Rising Sun to play games, 3-hour drive, because we were the only 1A school back then. We went to Leonardtown to play football games. I mean, the kids were tired when you got there. You know, 3-hour bus ride.
I guess I shouldn't complain about when I played football at Kennedy High School. And we drove out to Seneca Valley and we said, where are we going?
Where, yes, that's right. Poolesville didn't even have a football team back in the old days.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah, I think the rec department thing is important. HMD is a great organization, by the way. I was at the dinner the other night. So. It's just, you know, Knight's a good friend, and I used to live with Julie's brother on a farm back in the 70s. But I think a speaker series would be important at the high school for HMD, or, I'm not
You said a
volunteering
speaker?
myself, I'm out an awful lot of.
Speaker series.
Speaker
Okay.
series, yes, I'm sorry, speaker series, so that, you know, it could be some of our local farmers that have been farmers, like Billy Willard, family's been farming for 150
Yeah,
years.
that's a good idea.
To come in and do a speaker series on farming. The agricultural reserve is 93,000 acres. It was 106,000 acres.
Yeah.
You know, so it's down to 93. And as the county continues to grow, there's a lot of pressure on the ag reserve for development. But I do think the farming heritage is really important. It is the largest industry in the state of Maryland. So, you know, former governor told me once that he was the chairman of the Governors Association for the country, and he was out in the Midwest, and he's walking down a hallway, and he saw that there was an agricultural committee, which was Iowa and Illinois and Nebraska, and he walked in there, and they said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm an agricultural state." It is the largest industry in the state. So, and Montgomery County, it does about $300 million a year, and it employs about 10,000 people. Agriculture is important economically also, but our farmers have to be viable. They have to be able to make a profit to survive, and we compete on an international market. But I do think a speaker series of some kind about the historic Medley District.
Well, we started a speaker series a number of years ago, and we had 4 or 5. We had lynching group out, and we had different people speaking about the segregated school route. Literacy was saying. And also, this year, we changed the focus of the Old Town Hall. Before, it was wonderful, it was the Civil War Museum.
Sure.
Had all of Jimmy Poole's artifacts. But this year, we wanted to make it more of an expanded role. So we started just with our photo contest, but there are different topics we want to talk about. One of them is agriculture, the history of a lot of different things. I was talking to Billy Willard the other day, and he farms my farm. Billy does in Barnesville. And we talked also about different things. He's going to come out here and talk, but no, that's a good idea, and we're trying to increase our subject matter.
You know, history is yesterday.
Pardon me?
History is yesterday. It's not always 150 years ago, it's what happened yesterday.
Right.
And we're making history every day.
Right.
So there's been a huge transition of things that have gone on in this county. And I think you guys, from a speaker series, can talk about the past and the not so the not so far past, and there's plenty of folks that could speak on behalf of what's happening in agriculture today. Because it's really critical.
Yes.
We found out during the COVID and the pandemic that Manna Food Center and all these other food centers were overwhelmed. And the Office of Agriculture put a program together so that, I'm taking too much time. The Office of Agriculture put a program together where the CSA farmers and the Linda Lewises and the Ben Allnuts and the Allnuts Farm and Homestead Farm and Wade Butler to find a pricing structure that was in between retail and wholesale so that we could get food to these centers that were distributing food. And the upside of COVID was the fact that we learned that there is a huge problem with food distribution. And we learned something from that, and we need to move forward with that. But anyway, I think a speaker series at the high school, and don't forget about the middle school and the elementary school, because I once did a talk at when my grandson was in 4th grade at the elementary school about, I'm a pilot also, about flying. And, if you got the right speaker, you can grab these kids' attention and lead them down a path so they understand where eggs come from and where milk comes from and where cereal comes from.
Let me get in touch with you as far as maybe in the fall, we can talk about getting a subject matter regarding agriculture.
Sure, you bet. So the recreational thing, and there was something else about the senior center, I think. But, nursing. As you guys, some of you guys, I've known you guys a long time. So my daughter's a nurse in the school system, so she's at a middle school, and she manages other health aides in nursing, and they have a private room where kids can go that are having a bad day and can have an hour to sit down and talk. And Lauren is as much a mental health person as she is a physical, but normally health aides and nurses are dealing with triage as opposed to trying to be preventive, and it's sorely missed in the school system, without question. As we all know, the school system gets a budget from the county, but the county can't tell the school system how to spend the money. The school system determines how to spend the money. But we need more nurses, and we need better health care in our schools, and social workers, and other levels. And we're way past the need. It's crisis. And I don't know what you guys can do about that besides lobbying with the county council and the county executive about those needs. And I think that this community center needs to have, and we're years away from it actually being open, but now's the time to talk about how's it going to be staffed? When's it going to be open? Who has the keys? How are you going to manage it? There should be at least one day a week health professionals there for local seniors that can't, doesn't have a bus system or a way to get to a doctor, to be able to get their blood pressure checked.
Yep.
Maybe a urine test for diabetes. And education is critical. Otherwise, you guys have, what? I applaud you for what you've done, getting the high school built. It's absolutely amazing. It was a long, hard-fought battle. Pat yourselves on the back, but don't stop. So, do you guys have any questions for me as far as the ag community goes? Again, I'm not here representing MAP.
I guess I am curious about what you see as the biggest challenges facing our ag community right now.
Regulation, probably more than anything. Every time another bill comes up, whether it's in Annapolis or in Rockville, there was a bill to ban blowers, and that passed. But we got agriculture exempted from it. Farmer out in the field, when he moves the combine from one field to another, blows it out to get all the seed and dust out of it, because they catch on fire. Really easy. I think we had 2 combine fires last year. So it was important and they can't use a battery-powered one out in the farm in a field because it's just not practical. So things of that nature. What's really important to the agricultural industry is to not be so regulated that they can't be profitable. As far as I know, God's not making any more land. So holding on to our land and not having our land disappear is always a concern. Ag preservation, critical. There's about 50,000 acres being farmed, whether it's making hay or whatever it is, grain farmers, all that stuff in Montgomery County. There's a lot of pressure on the landowners. Solar was a big issue. The ag industry supports solar. We just don't want to lose a lot of farmland to solar because it's shrinking all the time.
So many different ways to use land, but let's make sure we're still using it primarily for ag.
There's 37,000 acres of parks in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
37,000 acres. There's 330,000 acres in Montgomery County of total land mass. So 10% is in parks. And most of the parkland, there's probably, I don't know, 500 acres of no more than that, 5,000 acres of parkland that is being leased by farmers that farm it. You know, the open fields and stuff like that.
And Sarah, another big threat to agriculture, and you're probably aware of this, too. For years, my husband was the president of the Maryland Environmental Trust, and he set up here in the farms, he's still working with them to get easements on your farms.
That's preservation.
A big threat is going to be this ZTA zoning, because Jim has talked to a number of the farmers, and he's very distrustful of what can happen, okay? Because our farm, we all have easements on it, but that is being threatened, and I don't think people who are supporting, I won't mention names, ZTA or whatever, realize
2309.
the ramifications of this
Z-
in other ways.
So ZTA 2309 was to allow overnight stays on farms
I
and
know what it is.
building the structures and all that. I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. We're working on an alternative ZTA, which will probably come out in the next week, 10 days, that will address camping. The whole ZTA came about because the state of Maryland passed a law in 2022, in the spring of 2022, to allow camping on agricultural land. Up until then, it was illegal. You could camp, you could have your friends come over and camp, you couldn't charge for it. So the idea was, the state said, okay, 22 counties, we're going to make it legal for camping on farms. Some people took that to the extreme. The state didn't write the law clear enough, so it just says camping, but some people thought about glamping, some people thought about permanent structures. There were some landowners that wanted to build slabs and buildings with electricity and heating and air conditioning. That's not camping. And I should know that, I worked for the North Face for 30 years. But it was a difficult ZTA, and it can affect agriculture. We don't want folks to come up and buy up land and turn it into a campground. We really want to protect farming. So that's what we're working hard on, that ZTA right now. But, you know, those things are just always going to keep popping up. Trust me, the Ag Reserve is on the target for lots of folks down county to start taking parts of it away. There's a lot of folks that don't live up here that don't understand it, and we need to do a better job educating them about it. But farm tours would be really good. We do farm tours for our politicians. We take our county council and county executive, park and planning board, MAP and Farm Bureau and Office of Ag have taken them on tours, so they can see the infrastructure that farmers have.
But I got a couple questions for you. Well, next time you're doing those tours, let me know. I like to tag along.
You bet.
And the other piece is, I'm thinking about the pipelines of future farmers. And when you have a family and they run out of children who want to continue that family business, how are the farmers, I guess, on this side as well as the East Coast, what are they doing to really continue that interest and desire to kind of feed the pipeline of future farmers?
You know, it's the average age 4 years ago in the USDA study was the average age of a farmer in the country is 59 years old. Mm-hmm. Farmers have the same. They're independent. They work for themselves. They have the same problems that everybody at this dais has. They want to put the kids through college. They want them to go on trips. They want them to have the right clothes. They want them to eat well. They want to live in a nice neighborhood. Farmers have that same issue. They're trying to put money away for 401k. They're doing the same things we're all doing. The problem is they're not in control of the pricing of the things they sell. It's an international market when it comes to that. So there's
Right.
good years and bad years. kids are going away to college and coming back and say, Mom, Dad, I've seen you work your butt off 7 days a week. That's not what I want to do. So how do you encourage people to continue to farm? We have a lot of CSAs, community service associations for food. That's on a small level. But we need to encourage young people.
And that's where I'm going
Well,
with
more
it.
the
It's-
training, right?
Well, not even just the training. Like, I remember when the one year I was working over at the high school, and some of my students, I had one young man in particular, and he was not as interested in following the norm that a lot of kids tend to follow over there. And so I started talking about, well, what do you enjoy? He said, I'd rather be on a tractor. I said, well, let's.
My grandson.
All right. I said, well, let's look at some opportunities where you could do that. And when we sat down, I showed him all the different programs where you could go to school and learn about farming and so forth. And I was surprised that in this area that I didn't see any like 4-H club or agricultural clubs. And
We don't have a farm ag program at
Well,
school in the ag
and even though
reserve
just-
or at the community college.
right. And I know I do some, in one of my other businesses, I do some work helping young people. And I was working with one young person out in, family out in California who was very active in their club and doing the farming and that kind of stuff. But I thought about out here, so I go back to that pipeline and just working through the schools. I know not every kid wants to follow some of these pathways that are really highlighted. And so looking at how to get the farmer's face in that life in front of kids who might say, hey, that's for me, that's what I want to do, who are really passionate about it. Because some kids, if they don't see it, and even if you, no matter where you go, if a kid doesn't see potential opportunities, then they won't pursue those things.
Career day.
A career day,
It's not even, they don't even get, it's not even on their radar.
right, and that's my point.
Well, Bob,
Yeah.
I have a question. So even if someone was passionate, if they're not in a farm family, how in the world do they start a farm?
In today's
Montgomery County.
environment, the price of land in the ag reserve, a combine costs around $600,000. That's without a head on the front of it.
So if you're not
150,
already in a
200
farming
grand for a
family,
cutting
there's
edge.
no entry point.
Yeah, the infrastructure to start as a farmer today is very difficult, very difficult.
So if, you have to start small and you build up over a generation to even get towards being able to farm even 200 acres, right? So are there any programs existing in Montgomery County with maybe like forgivable loans to get a farmer started if they commit for a certain number of years or anything like that to even make there be access? So we could have tons of agricultural training programs, but there's just not entry points is what I'm.
So I don't know a single farmer today that would say that they can get an employee tomorrow. They can't, nobody wants to work.
Well, because I'm thinking more, well,
Really,
I'll get
really
you in
hard to
second
get
hand.
people to work on a farm. First off, it's very competitive, how much they can pay. But it's a difficult thing, but if you can develop the passion early in someone that wants to be a farmer, if you can expose them to it early enough, then they can take the same passion they would have about programming or sales and marketing or, a business degree and put it into agriculture. The need is there. It's not just farming. It is
The whole industry.
the entire industry.
Yeah, it's a high-tech industry.
If you got into a combine tomorrow, you'll see 3 computer screens. It's measuring everything that happens on that field all day long, whether it's harvesting or planting. All the tractors, pretty much most of them are GPS driven when you're planting,
Amazing.
so you don't cross over rows. It's a very technical industry.
Yeah, and too, it's not that easy. I want to be a farmer, I have this passion. Now, it's gotten very, very expensive now. Today, I was paying Southern States the fertilizer bill, okay? Okay, and of course, when COVID came, most of our fertilizer was coming from Russia and Ukraine. So it was astronomical. Well, this year, when I went up to Southern States, because we have, Billy Willard has, this year he's planting pumpkins, hay, soybeans, all that stuff. And I talked to him the other day. I said, hey, Billy, did you see the price of the fertilizer? It's still up there pretty high. So it's not that easy to turn your passion into an actual actual career. You know that.
Yeah, and Billy's in the ags.
The cost of machinery is, and not get repaired is unbelievable. It's very expensive to be a farmer.
It is. That doesn't
And
mean
you
you
gotta
couldn't
dump
become a
it.
farmer.
No, I didn't.
And there are lots of, we're in a small area. I mean, land values are really high here.
Yeah, this is a particularly expensive place to be a farmer.
So I'll go back to, because Ann wants to jump in, so I'm going to pause. Ann, go ahead and jump in.
And two things, and Bob, I'm sure knows more about this than I, but one program we do have that I'm not even in agriculture, but I tell everybody who will listen is Montgomery Countryside Alliance has the Land Link program.
Yeah.
That to allow younger people who want to farm opportunity to get into some land at an affordable rate that they can do it. And to me, that's something that we need to be broadcasting widely and really capitalizing on. And then the other piece is, I don't know if this is correct, Bob may know, but
I'm sorry for my
heard
back,
that
but I can't.
Damascus has an ag program.
They do.
They do.
And I thought, so in terms of fair access specifically, you've
I
done
didn't know
great
that.
with the school, we need ag, we need a sustainability, soil sustainability ag program in there, because that is also the future. I mean, 20 years from now, we have to have that.
We're gonna need more we're gonna need more food 20 years from now than we have now.
So that's a project down the road, but we need to have that as well. But the Montgomery County Land Link, and then my last comment is, when HMD speaker series, including agricultural content and farm tours, are all put together, that needs to be in the spring, winter, fall, summer rep guide listings so that people outside of Poolesville know about it. If we're gonna grow, then grow. Don't just keep it here and say we had a good turnout from Poolesville, Bellsville, and Darnestown. We need to make this big news, what we have up here to offer. So
Yeah.
that goes back to what can we use that we have access to that doesn't cost money, and that's just putting out what we're doing.
So, and thank you. I didn't come here to talk about farming per se, but I would say the Land Link program's a great program. Caroline runs, at MCA runs a great program for Land Link. But Land Link is mostly for CSAs.
Right.
Mostly for 2 or 3 acres.
Yeah.
There's not 100 acres out there available to anybody.
Right. Too small.
The parkland is very competitive to lease. Leasing, of the farmers in Montgomery County, 60% of the land they farm is leased. They don't own it. Mostly absentee owners, actually. So they're paying so much an acre to lease that farmland every year. And if you're doing winter wheat and then stubble beans afterwards, you get double crops on a field. Makes it a little more affordable when you're leasing land. Soybeans and corn are the big grains that are grown here. It's also, Montgomery County's huge in the equestrian industry also. A lot of horses, a lot of hay gets made here for
Big time.
for horses.
Yeah.
An answer to your question is, it's hard, but we're not doing anything to encourage people to have the desire. There's just no education going on, and we need to educate. And I think the school system, for years, we've lobbied the school system about having ag education. Even if it's just one semester of someone going in and talking about agriculture, how it works, how it functions, what is the day-to-day part of it. It's a great way to make a living. It truly is. I mean, you're outdoor all the time, and it can be also very frustrating, and it's hard work. But I would encourage the Fair Access Committee to work on having some kind of program at the high school level, also at the middle school level. You got to get kids young in order to get them excited about something. By the time they're in high school, their parents are already pushing them in a direction. They're already pushing themselves in a direction when it comes to career functions. It may not, it's not, they don't have blinders on, but they're not looking 180 degrees either.
Right. And that's what goes back to the essence of my question, original question, about the pipeline. And even if it's not owning a farm, it's like, hey, you know what? I might want to do some of the work on a farm. And for some kids, they may say, hey, this would be a career that I want to do, but they don't know that it exists. So I tell you what, I'll open up the door if you want to experiment. I'm at a middle school, and I'm in charge of who could come in and speak to our students, and so I oversee that. I'm at Robert Frost Middle School, so let's talk offline, and we could even look at having some folks come over and speak to our kids during our career day, and kind of.
You know what, I can help you with that. Again, this is not MAP's mission. Our mission is different. It would be Bob Sissel coming.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
I have my full plate with all the other stuff that I've got to deal with, legislation, and regulation, and helping to educate the county council and the county executive.
Because I'll
Well,
share
with high
this
school
with you.
guys. So, just keeping them informed about the challenges, daily challenges of agriculture is critical. The best program in the county and the state and in the nation is 4-H. I mean, that's the best. You go to the fair in the summertime. Kids go to the fair to pet an animal and then walk away.
Yeah.
It's the kids that are there, most of them come from farm families.
Well, I would share this piece going back to Charlotte's point about mental health. And so one of the things I do see, I've seen for years, is the kid who feels like they have no place, the kid who feels like they just don't fit in to what's been pushed. And for a long time, it's what's been pushed to kids here. You got to go to college, you got to go to college. I mean, and what happens, some kids might say, well, you know what, I don't necessarily want to go do that. I don't want to take on the debt and do this. I want to go work. I want to go learn. I want to learn a trade. I want to learn something. And so I think making sure young people have access to information to help make good choices, knowing what's out there. And so I put a high premium on that individual kid or that one or two kids or that 5 or 10 kids who might not go the way of the crowd, but might want to do something different. And you never know. You could have that young person who's 18, 19, who's taking a job on a farm, starts to really get the hands in there and start to learn the ins and outs, and you have some folks in a position to help mentor that young person. Eventually that 19 or 20-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid will become that 30-something-year-old kid, and they demonstrate that they can learn the work, do the work. You never know where you can raise money. I mean, I got a young kid that I mentor, and he's in his 30s, early 40s, and he started his own business about 2 years ago, and he broke the 7-figure mark. And so I've seen what you can do when you get connected with the right resources and drive.
We've got success stories like that
Yeah.
here in Poolesville.
Yeah, he's crushing it,
Guys in the
too.
landscape business, there's guys that have
I don't know if you remember, but when we started practice, for the first 2 years, as we tried to get the school going, we were working with the Maryland Agriculture Education Foundation, and we actually had their van here for 2 years at the Poolesville Day. It was a really educational van about farming and about what farmers do and all that. And then with MAEF, I forgot the guy's name, but he really did try hard to get discussions going on a magnet program at
Yep,
Poolesville High
I
School.
remember it.
And that we got 4 magnets, so I understand there's a lot of tension there because you've already got a lot of resources devoted to it, but it might be worth, going back and talking to him again about, he was a good guy, I've forgotten his name, but he really did try hard to get that
I remember
going.
working with them. The Farm Bureau has a combination program of it's a tractor trailer walkthrough that goes around to elementary schools and gets pulled around by the Office of Agriculture. And that's a good education program. The 4-H doesn't teach just farming. You have to get up and speak. I mean, it is a great program to develop not just farming, but because you have an animal that you have to take care of and all that stuff. Great responsibilities. But there's lots of other character building things that go on with 4-H. And there's, it's a good program. We just need more people to. Parents aren't sitting around the kitchen table with 8th grade kids and saying, well, maybe have you thought about being a farmer? That conversation's not happening.
No.
So, how do you encourage that?
My kids have all gotten into farming, and they've done it through Kaleva.
Yeah, and
There's
Kaleva's a great
opportunities
operation.
here.
My grandson went to college for 2 years, played baseball and all that, and then went to work for Jamie Jameson for 5 years. Drove every piece of equipment you can possibly imagine, worked 70, 80-hour weeks, and now he works for a heavy equipment operator And that was a stepping stone for him to go in that direction. And there's lots of opportunities out there. The science of agriculture
Yeah.
is a huge
Yeah.
industry.
Well, I think about
Huge.
STEM, and I think about the importance of what you all do, or what happens in agriculture, and how that works with STEM. And I know one thing is that your land, you don't want your land being outsourced out of the country, so you got to have some folks that could come out. Those who choose to work in that field I think is very important.
I'll leave you with this. I again, I wasn't coming here to just talk about farming, but, it's, the farm, when it comes to the land, the farmers are absolutely the best protectors of land in Montgomery County. It's the one thing that there's not extra of it around. They really take care of the soil. They don't call it dirt, they call it soil. The nutrient management plans that they have to fill out, and the soil conservation district plans everything is monitored. There are some folks that would think that a farmer is out there spraying chemicals willy-nilly. The chemical part of it, the food that you feed to the plants, nitrogen, the NPK they call it, they use the least amount that they can get away with because it's really expensive. During COVID, nitrogen tripled in price. Tripled. How does a farmer make that back? Everything has gotten very, very expensive. And the prices have not, they've come back down to reality. During COVID, they shot up. So, and of course, farmers are not in control. They're price takers, not price makers. So, anyway, thanks for listening to me.
Thanks.
I'm always available, and I appreciate it.
Bob, I'll follow up with you and get you on the calendar for next school year.
Tom, you want to do cleanup?
Tom, you got 2 minutes, man.
Yeah, man.
No, I'm just joking.
I gotta make dinner now.
I apologize. I have a hard out at 8, so I'm going to listen for a few minutes, but please don't be offended when I get up and, it's not you.
Tom Kettler, here. Here on behalf in my capacity as president of the Chamber of Commerce. First, I did want to compliment the Fair Access Group for all the tremendous stuff you all have done. The school, on and on and on, and the community center. I mean, it's always interesting when I speak on behalf of the chamber because we represent about 150 businesses, organizations, groups. Some are home-based businesses, some are restaurants. So everybody's, it's hard when I speak on behalf of everybody, but I think my comments tonight are generally going to be, Poolesville's got, and we represent the western Montgomery County. Clearly, Poolesville is our epicenter, and as it is for fair access and what we do out here. But if you think about the businesses, basically that make and I feel very strongly, which is why I'm president of the chamber, that make part of the community what it is. We're not just a bunch of houses. We're not just and that's what I do for a living. But we're a community of schools, churches, businesses, is all interrelates. But our businesses really have two sources of business. One is people who live here, and we've got 6,000 people in Poolesville, and then people who come in and then go out. So really, there are two markets for that, and a lot of what people have talked about tonight where you can bring people in from outside the area. Certainly is a benefit to our business community. I know you all, one of the things that's certainly important to us, and we've worked around the edges on it, and that you all have been very active in it, is the White's Ferry certainly is something that's still very important to us because that's a major funnel of people through and into the area from Virginia. And obviously that's been cut off. So, I talked to businesses in town, and businesses and restaurants, quantifiably is down, 10, 15, 20% from before the ferry closed. So that's a big deal for us. I think that there are opportunities, back to what you all are doing, working with all the different groups, and you've done a great job of raising the profile of this area. But things like, visitation and tourism, which again touches on a lot of what people talked about tonight, whether it's agritourism or historical tourism, or just bringing people to the area. Certainly all of that benefits the chamber businesses because it brings people to our area. But I think we can do more with groups like Visit, and I know Link's been, and you guys have been working on this. Visit Montgomery is a countywide organization. They're really focused on hotel rooms, and that's where they get their money from. I mean, I've been involved with them for over 20 years in all my different nonprofit capacities that I involved in. I realized Poolesville is just not really on their radar, because how many hotel rooms are in Poolesville? The answer would be 0. So there's not, we're not generating the money from them, so they're not, but again, now we've got cross fines, so there's so, and then we've got obviously cross fines, and then we've got locals and Riverworks, all these, all this energy in the last 4 or 5 years, I think is really, is pretty exciting, and I think all of that will generate people coming out to this area, and that's what anything we can do. The community center is another source where if you can get people, as people have said tonight, if we can get people coming into here versus going out. I mean, the key is to keep people who are living in town, whether it's to shop or to do whatever, and again, to bring people from out of town. It's hard, I think, for certain businesses to survive long-term just on the population that's in the area. I think it's very difficult. And we found that with grocery stores, and the co-op, I know, is another focus that the commissioners have had, and that was something else that certainly I think is worth pursuing. I know it's a pretty expensive proposition from what I've heard to get it going, but I think it's certainly worth exploring, figuring that out to give a local. And it's curious to me as I go into Dollar General and just seeing how that has sort of morphed in the last year or two into providing more and more stuff from when they first opened up. I mean, they have produce in there, and I didn't think Dollar General could do produce, but apparently, that is a business model that works for them, and they're starting to do it. And obviously, that is effectively between that and CVS, those are ours are quote unquote grocery stores, and they're being used for that because of the convenience factor. And I just moved back to town, and I think I remember when Dollar General was getting ready to be built, there was all this kind of hand-wringing, oh my God, how can we have a Dollar General in Poolesville? I remember being very upset as a business person, saying, look, if there's a business model where it'll work and it'll be successful and it'll provide a service to town. If you think about it right now, if we didn't have Dollar General in town now,
How would we get along without it?
yeah, you would go to CVS and you can get stuff, but at any rate, but the chamber, it is, trying to keep, restaurants going, and we all see the businesses, they come. Some businesses come and they last a long time. Some businesses come and they last 2 or 3 years and just can't make it, and then they die off, and then somebody else comes back in and they die off, and somebody, and obviously the goal is to get businesses that can be successful and can maintain their viability over the long haul. So, but Visit Montgomery. The other thing is there are sources. Again, and having worked in different groups that I've been in, there are groups like Heritage Montgomery, which has money out there. It's a statewide organization with the county, the local county affiliate of the statewide organization is Heritage Montgomery. Poolesville, and some people know, some people don't, is one of their target areas for money. They basically want to give money to us, and part of it is us going out to get the money from them, and I think the town has done that some in the past, but I think there are other opportunities that if people are creative and figure out ways to access those funds, we might as well go after them, because it's all of our money. It's all state tax money. We're all paying into it. Mm-hmm. And as you all are working so hard to do, we put all this money out there. We'd like to see some of it coming back, back to us as tax-paying citizens and, residents of Montgomery County. So there was other stuff. I know it's late and my mind is wandering, but anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions or Phil, I'm trying to think of other, but the ferry, Visit Montgomery, and trying to, access sources of money from places that are out there that we may or may not know about, so.
I have a question about that Tommy might be able to address.
Yeah.
What's the town or fair access for our local vendors doing to advertise outside town to get people to come? we, I know we don't have a lot of money.
Right.
But how do we promote people from Tacoma Park to come out here on a Saturday and go to Lewis Orchards and come into Poolesville and have a pizza, or whatever it might be?
Yeah,
We're the best kept secret in the world.
right. Yeah, and some people like that, right. Some people don't want us to be known, but yeah, there are bits and pieces. I mean, there are things like in the, as you know, Bob, from the end of July, you have the farm, have the farm festival, or whatever they call it, the last week in July, where that goes out countywide. There's Heritage Days, which is at the end of, that's been going on for like 20 years now, at the end of June, where people go, the sites all throughout the county, and I'm sure people come to Poolesville because of that who didn't know that it was on the radar screen. I'm excited for the chamber. In a couple of weeks, we're having a joint chamber event down at Crossvines with 8 other chambers are all coming out here, so we're pretty excited about that. We didn't initiate it, but when I heard about it, we sort of said, oh yeah, we're in on that. So, you'll have Silver Spring, Rockville, all these people coming out and probably hitting Crossvines for the first time ever. So that'll be exciting because again, yeah, and that they're expecting 250 people, but certainly advertising. The chamber has, and I was involved in that years ago, putting out our little Poolesville historic map, which has ads for local businesses, but it also highlights a lot of the farms and the breweries and the wineries, and certainly that's a whole nother sub thing that's only happened in the last couple of years with the changes in legislation. Now you've got Windridge, you've got Rockland's been there for a while. You've got the brewery, which I guess is not opening, and maybe never open up again. Landmade, I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that was unfortunate.
Well, there's a distillery that's going to open up, I guess, pretty soon on Buck Lodge Road.
Yeah, I've
pretty
heard.
big.
New distillery, they've been in business down.
Yeah.
That's going to be that tasting room is only going to be 49 people. It's going
Right.
to be small.
Yeah.
But it's a start.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing and I know there's, the other thing that I know I was going to touch on, and I don't know if the solution to that, but certainly the ability to get overnight housing. I know the whole ZTA thing is just bubbled up, but right now there's really zero. I mean, it's funny, I Googled earlier today, I Googled Airbnbs in this area, and I saw one Airbnb up in Barnesville, and I know the woman who owns the house up there just outside of town. But in terms of, people coming to the area and being able to spend the night, that's something that obviously you can't really do right now because there's nothing.
So there's several things, just to quickly outline some of the things we've been doing to help on that front is, we did start meeting with Kelly Groff 3 years ago and Visit Montgomery, and they now this year finally did put a line item in the budget, and they're hiring a person, and it's not subject to the funding from Visit Montgomery, so it's not based on hotel revenues. They're getting money from the county for a person who is dedicated primarily to promoting stuff in the Western County.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent news. Yeah.
Broadly speaking.
Right.
So that's one thing that's happening. And they do actually, we met with Kelly a few weeks ago, and she gave us a briefing on it, but they did actually buy a data set based on GPS anonymized data. So they're beginning to see where people are coming from and where they're going to in the Ag Reserve. They don't know yet why they're coming, but they do know to some degree where they're going in the Poolesville, Western County area.
Right.
Which is a start.
Right.
But we also spent a lot of time with the Tourism Bureau for the state, and they actually did this incredible study, which we're trying to use as a model now to try to get an economic study of Western County. Not so much the farming part of it we know better because we have an ag department, and they know some of the economics. They know a lot more what's going on there. But why people come here, what they know about the Ag Reserve, where they go when they come here, how much money they spend, we don't know any of that. So I spent a lot of time with the president of Rockport Analytics, who did a study for the state on the C&O Canal. It's just one piece of what's going on out here. And there are $368 million every year generated by the C&O Canal.
It's the most.
And a lot of it is in Montgomery County, because 42% of the traffic is Montgomery County traffic. Yeah. That part of the C&O Canal is the most popular part. I don't think most people knew that.
Yeah, it's the most popular park in the country, right?
Yeah. It's one of the biggest, one of the top 5. But in Montgomery County part, it's one of the most popular parts. But that study not only identified how much money is spent, but where those people go afterwards, and guess which city they don't go to? Us. They go to Leesburg, they go to Gaithersburg, they go to Frederick, because there's no place to stay out here.
right.
So we do have issues with that, and I'm not advocating for the ZTA.
Right.
I'm just saying
yeah.
there is an issue there. But the study also identified why they came and what they know about the C&O Canal, why they came in there in the first place, what states they came from. We don't know any of that for the Ag Reserve either. We do know that people often, you see it all the time, you go to locals, they don't know anything. That, wow, I can't believe this exists out here. Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, because they think Ag Reserve and they think, I'm sure, it must be farming up there. There's probably not much out there that I need to go see or can go see.
So, I
So,
don't even know it's an ag reserve.
right. So
Right.
I worked with this guy, and he's actually helped us put together a framework to do that kind of study for the Ag Reserve, essentially. We're trying to get some sponsors for it, but it's only a $75,000 study. It wouldn't cost a lot of money to do it. And that would be a start at trying to figure out, how do we do a better job of doing what you said, Tom, which is getting people to come out here and get them to visit, and where they're coming from and how we market to them. And then we can actually go to visit Montgomery and say, you know what? We know a lot more about this now. You guys should be spending advertising dollars on these categories of people. And even on the ZTA, Bob, I think it's fair to say that a lot of that debate was uninformed because none of us really knew. Would people come out here? Would they use it? I don't know. Is there a market for the farmers? They don't know either, and it's not their fault. There's just no data. So
Yeah.
I think that'll help a lot. It's a start. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there are fits and starts, because Visit Montgomery, they even did an ad, and if you look at the Poolesville map that we did a year or so ago, there, Visit Montgomery has a, what's it called, the tasting tour or something, but that's one of their little, they're sort of, again, promoting the wineries and the breweries, which are throughout the county, and obviously.
Wine tours and brewery tours.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something that Visit Montgomery is working on, and they did, they recognize them. Anybody drives up and down 28 on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock and looks down at Windridge, you go, well, there's somebody there. I mean, the parking lots just slam a jam, and now where those people are coming from, some from Poolesville, some from Gaithersburg, I'm sure, coming from all over the place, but.
And that's not in the ag reserve.
And it's not in the Ag Reserve, right. Just on the other side, right, on Butts property, so. Right, the Butts.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. It's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, well, thanks.
There's a lot here for us to digest, and
all you
whether
guys
there's
are doing, and
anything
thanks
here for us to work on, we'll certainly talk about as a committee, and we certainly won't ignore it, that's for sure. I do want to make one final point for all the committee members, just on White's Ferry. As you know, there was an offer of a donation.
Right.
We do know that the donation was caveated on what Chuck Kuhn asked would be, or said would be, a relatively short duration solution to the landing problem. In other words, he was not saying, I'll donate it no matter what. He was saying, if something happens or you could begin to make progress towards that in the near term, I'm ready to donate it if that would help. Since then,
Yeah.
right, after all this time, honestly, Jim and I were not all that enthusiastic or that excited. But on the other hand, it does say that Chuck Kuhn is saying, I'm willing to take myself out of the equation because clearly that's not working, and that's good. Not because of him or anything else, it's just they can't work. We do know they've been talking to Libby a lot since then.
They being the county?
Yeah, both Loudoun County and Montgomery County about some kind of a model. I don't know.
Libby is the landowner.
Oh, no.
If she's the Virginia landowner. We also know that the Loudoun County folks, when we testified back in November 2021, basically gave us the cold shoulder and said, why are you guys over here? This is our problem. It's not, you guys are getting all the traffic, so, it's not really something we want to solve, honestly. We're not going to use eminent domain. They told us that up front, too. So we wrote a letter to them saying, it's really, if you look at it as a issue where the two areas here, northern Loudoun County and western Montgomery County, are very similar in many ways. We're both rural, we got a lot of historic sites, we've got a lot of wineries and breweries that people want to visit, and the ferry links them together. We actually have a joint interest here, even though we know some of the traffic comes to the C&O Canal and some goes to the Sugarloaf Mountain, they also go the other direction, and they stay in Leesburg after they come. So we try to make it a very positive letter saying there's a regional aspect to this, and it's not just about
Absolutely.
muting. It's also about tourism. I don't know if it had any effect, but I think it was positive. I hope they took it the way we wrote it. I hope it does spur them to say, maybe we should look at this again. I just don't know. So,
Yeah, I reached out I was hoping a couple of years ago that there was a Leesburg Chamber of Commerce, realized there was not. It was just Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce. So I literally reached out right after the ferry closed to my counterpart over there. And it was the same kind of pushback that you got, like they just did.
Yeah.
It was a fly on there. Well, they went the bridge, right? It was a fly in the ointment. They just did.
Yeah, well, Route 15's big, and they got a lot of problems there.
Certainly,
So.
the tourism aspect, and if you could get the Leesburg people, that's, because they're really our counterparts on the other side of the river, the Leesburg, Poolesville, that's the linkage.
Leesburg does not have a chamber.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Because they have a very successful business.
Yeah. So I don't, maybe there's, I should,
The vineyards and the brewery.
if there was
Oh,
a
yeah.
ferry, I'd go over there and check it out, but I can't get there.
On the other hand, Costco and Target probably do not notice that the ferry's closed, so that's part of the problem.
Anyway,
Thanks a lot
thanks
for
for
coming
your time,
tonight.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
We doing the rest of this stuff?
With that,
Rest of the agenda?
yep.
All right, y'all take care. Bob, I got your number, right? Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me see here quick.
I've got it.
Thanks.
How are you? I'm good, brother. Good to see you. I see you driving around, but
There's only one other quick thing I wanted to cover on the agenda, and that's the pool bubble.
Up with the group.
Real quickly.
Yeah, they've been doing great stuff.
We took a tour of, there's a pool bubble in Hood College. It was a really interesting structure, but it's not removable, so it's not really a model that I think would work for us. There is one in Quince Orchard. I'm trying to arrange a tour there, so I'll let you guys know when we get that set up. And we also had J.D. Taylor, who has a drone so he could take pictures. We had him do a flyover of the pool so we can get some dimensions and really have a good idea what space are we talking about and how would it be configured. And Adam's got some folks in his company that might be able to help put together a cost estimate. So that's what we're working on next. Because last time I talked to Marilyn, she said, well, how much will it cost? And I said, I got no clue.
I'm
So
working on that.
If we can do that, that could help a lot.
One of
I woke up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, drone. And it came, that's when I said, like, in the next day, I was like, I got to get a drone because I can take the pictures on the side, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't do any justice unless you're over top of
Yeah,
it,
you did a good job.
which he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's where we are on and that's basically it.
Good.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything for the agenda?
No.
Want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second this motion.
There you go. I think we are adjourned.
We'll see you guys.
All right.
Adam, we'll talk to you.
Thanks, Niles. I appreciate it. Thanks
Hey,
for
Bob,
coming.
put your number in here.
So what are you keeping busy on?
Yeah.